Hey, good afternoon. Another one of our Footsteps of Jesus through Holy Week videos here. Today, Thursday, is Maundy Thursday. Uh, Now, some of you, I'm sure many of you, know what Maundy Thursday is primarily about in the church's calendar. That is the Lord's Supper. This evening of the Passover meal, when they gathered together for what we now call the Last Supper. I feel pretty sure they didn't call it the Last Supper then, but they gathered together for this supper, the Passover meal, and during that Jesus instituted what we call the Lord's Supper, or communion, or the Eucharist, or any sorts of other names. That's normally the focus of this day, and if you tune in later tonight for our Maundy Thursday service online, you'll see that you'll hear about that as well at the end of our Lenten series on the six chief parts of the Catechism. But there are other things that happen on this day in the Gospels. Jesus tells two of his disciples to go prepare the Passover meal. There's an interesting tidbit about that. When they ask, where should we eat the Passover, or where should we prepare the Passover for you, he tells them to go into the city, and sort of a cryptic beginning to it. Basically, follow, you're going to see a guy carrying a water jar, follow him, go into that house, and tell the guy who lives there that I'm going to come eat the Passover there. So instead of just giving him an address or something like that, it's sort of another proof of his all-knowingness, his omniscience, and kind of just an interesting story that goes along with that. During that Last Supper, there are a lot of other things that come in. Talks about Judas as the one who is betraying Jesus. Includes Jesus washing his disciples' feet. Now, I know some churches do practice that, a rite of foot washing as a part of Maundy Thursday. And there is certainly some merit to that, because Jesus says, what I have done for you, you ought to do for each other. So that foot washing, of course, is a symbol of, Jesus came not to be served, but to serve. That he didn't come he came as the king, but a very different kind of king, a king that comes to serve his subject, to serve his people. And he offers himself up as an example, that the greatest, as he tells them, the greatest among you must be a servant to the others. So just as Jesus shows us, even the greatest of this world is not too great to wash the feet of others. Certainly there's been much made in different sermons and treatments about how dirty and dusty people's feet would be in such a arid climate with so much dust and sand and dirt and so forth, wearing sandals and walking everywhere. I'm sure people's feet got filthy pretty easily. So certainly we should pay attention to that example. And finally, if you pay attention to the chronology of the Gospel of John, almost 1/3 of John's Gospel takes place on this Maundy Thursday. Really everything in John's Gospel, chapter 13 up through, apologize, I'm flipping through here just to make sure I get this right, from chapter 13 all the way up to the end of chapter 17. 5 whole chapters of John's Gospel are this day, this Maundy Thursday, and the Last Supper and the events of it. So Jesus has quite a lot of teaching to do on that last night before the crucifixion and everything takes place. This is where that wonderful passage comes from. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. This is where the passage about, you know where I am going. I'm going to prepare a place for you. In my Father's house are many rooms, many spaces, many mansions in the old King James. That also comes from chapter 14 during this Last Supper. Jesus has promises of the Holy Spirit that he will send at the proper time. He tells his disciples that, I am the vine and you are the branches, that those who are connected to him are the ones who bear fruit and have life. It talks more about the work of the Holy Spirit. This is also the time when he gives them what he calls a new commandment. This is where that phrase Maundy Thursday probably comes from. Maundy being sort of a translated, garbled version of mandatum. Mandatum means commandment in Latin. And it was during the Last Supper that he told his disciples, I give you a new commandment, that to love each other as I have loved you. And that phrase, mandatum novum, new commandment, is probably where Maundy Thursday comes from. So I hope you will tune in tonight for our Maundy Thursday service that is going to be posted online, just like this. And we begin now what is called the Paschal Triduum. Paschal, meaning Easter. Pascha is simply Passover or Passover in Hebrew and Greek and so forth. Triduum means 3 days. So the Paschal Triduum, the great 3 days of Easter, being, this long weekend leading up from the crucifixion through the resurrection. Maundy Thursday is considered the first service of that. So I'll leave you with that now, and see you in a different form later tonight.